Introducing On the Horizon, a podcast by Horizon Resources Cooperative, supporting farmers and ranchers across northwest North Dakota and northeast Montana. Join host Levi Hall as he engages with agronomy experts, grain traders, and community leaders, sharing insights to help you make confident, informed decisions for your operations. From market trends to practical advice, we bring you the conversations that matter.
Horizon Resources, solutions for your success.
Welcome back to another episode of On the Horizon. This week, we have back the fuel guy, Guy Olson. His first two episodes were very well received, and now we brought Guy back to talk about gasoline and gasoline engines and the fuel additives for gas tanks. This was a great episode because everyone has a gas engine around their place, whether it's your daily driver or it's a lawnmower, it could be a boat. It does not matter. We touched them all today. We talked about the difference too. You know, sometimes you pull up to the pump and there's 6 different gasolines there. We talk about all the differences and talk about the advantages to adding an additive every time you fill. Enjoy the show.
In 2024, Horizon Resource members earned over $21.5 million in patronage, 10.3% on feed, 12.4% on retail, 12.7% on agronomy, 10.9% on energy, 45 cents per bushel on durum, $2.25 per hundredweight on canola. When you're a member, every purchase pays you back.
Horizon Resources, solutions for your success.
Welcome back to another episode of On the Horizon. This week, for the third time, we've got the fuel guy, Guy Olson. Thanks so much for coming back once again, Guy.
It is great to be here. Just my old home stomping ground.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to give you a tent and residency here pretty quick, I think. Well, for the people that may have missed one or two episodes that you were on before this, why don't you give a little bit of a brief background on who you are, who PFS is, and what you guys do?
Yeah. So Performance Fuel Specialists, we're 40 years old. We are owned and operated in Montana. I was born in Sydney. My family's from the Culbertson-Bainville area, still have family up there, farming, ranching. I started this company at the ripe old age of 43 or 23, which was 40 years ago. Yeah. And so I've gotten considerably older ever since, but it's just been a passion. And we deal only in fuels. I don't do polish or wipes or, cleaners or any of that. We specialize only in fuels. Written for a number of magazines, been on Motor Trend TVs, did a series on them, do clinics for fleets and that type of stuff, and trainings on fuels, on additives. Obviously I believe in additives, and everybody uses them whether you want to or not. I mean, you get them out of the refinery, right? It's just part of life. You say, I don't believe they work. You're using them. It don't matter what it is. You're going to be getting them. It's just how much and what's the quality and everything else. There's so much more that goes into maintaining this new equipment, especially than it used to be. Even it's much more complex. And so I try to teach people about buying their fuels, when to buy, understanding the difference between summer and winter fuels, when to blend, when not to blend. And of course, we deal with diesel and we deal with gasoline, and we've got a real simple line. We got 2 diesel products, our summer diesel and our winter version, our Power Plus versus our Arctic Extreme. We do have a commercial kind of a concentrated for the bulk, but that's the same product, just a little more concentrated. Now we have our gasoline treatments, our Gas Plus and our Extreme Marine, which is a product for the boating industry itself. And so it's a simple line. They're complete formulas, multifunctional, so they cover a wide range of issues all in one product. They don't change the amount. We don't use solvents to clean. Like a lot of products will use a solvent, and solvents do clean. And probably one of the misconceptions you get in the industry is people will buy a product, they'll pour it in, and they'll say, wow, that really cleans. That's a great product. Trust me, that has nothing to do with the quality of a product. nothing to do with it. Can you clean and clean efficiently? You can put solvents in your motor oil and it will clean your motor oil. It will clean your crankcase, but that doesn't mean it's good to have solvent in your crankcase, right? Because you wouldn't have any good lubrication. Right. And so we try to clear up some of those misconceptions about the industry. There's ways to clean safely, and there's ways to clean, but it's not necessarily good for these $500 fuel pumps that you got in your car, and you really don't want to have to replace because they're in the tank and everything else. So you can spend $1,000 to replace a fuel pump. And so do you want to soak it in solvent, or would you like to soak it in something that lubricates it and adds life to it and makes it more quiet, or something that makes it noisy? And
when I was on your website looking at your product lineup, one of the things that popped into my head is sometimes you go to a restaurant and they've got 20-page menu, right? And there's some of your competitors, that's what they've got. They've got 100 different additives. And then I went to your website and you guys have 6 or so additives that's on there. And I felt like I was at that small little restaurant that only has 10 items on the menu. And no matter what you pick, it's going to be excellent because they're just really good at what they're doing, rather than just taking the shotgun approach and saying, hopefully one of these works well enough. And, I made the comment in the first episode that we did about, here's the one you use if the wind is out of the north. Here's the one you use if the wind's out of the south, So yeah, I really am a believer in the accuracy that you guys are able to have by having a much smaller product line.
Yeah, it saves everybody money, saves everybody time, but it's not, from a marketing standpoint, it's not good. I think we discussed earlier about one of my competitors, 14 injector cleaners. Right. It's like, why do you need 14? It either cleans them or it doesn't clean them, right? But then that buys shelf space. So the chances of them selling one become greater, but it also adds to your inventory, their inventory, and the overall cost of all the products, because you gotta float the expense for that. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. We want to clean them if they're dirty, the injectors. We want to keep them clean indefinitely each and every time, right? It's not complicated. We want to lubricate every time. That high dollar pump you've got, as we talked about, it's really important that you do that. And so again, because they're multifunctional and they're complete formulas, they also have that standard 1 ounce to 10 gallon treat rate. That does not change. The bottles are really easy to use. The ounces are on the side. It's got a little squirt top. It works in capless gas tanks with a gas treatment, or the diesel one. It fits down inside the neck. But we've done everything we can to make it easy to use and get something inside the bottle and not just spend it on the outside. Because most products, especially in the gas market, treat 10 gallons. Or 12 gallons. So you pour in the whole bottle, sometimes a steel can, run from the steel cans. There's a reason they're in steel and not in plastic. Unfortunately, your fuel system contains plastic. Mm-hmm. And so by keeping it concentrated and treating 120 gallons per bottle instead of 10, you throw away 12 less containers, which we can all agree, that's great, right? Throwing away far less plastic. Plus you're not expending the money to label, ship, package. You're not shipping an entire case, right? It's just one slot in a case. And you can actually put money inside the bottle. Think about it. You go down and buy a bottle of injector cleaner or whatever you want to buy for $3, right? Bottle of water at the same store costs you a couple bucks, and usually it's made right there, right? It's not coming from back east, right? And so it just makes sense. The packaging costs money, and so keeping that concentration allows you to get more for your buck and actually get a product that actually works and is multifunctional.
Absolutely. And we talked already about the diesel products that you offer, but today I wanted to have you on because we barely scratched the surface, but the one that I really wanted to talk about this time is your gasoline product lines. So if you're out there driving a vehicle that uses gasoline, not diesel, this episode is for you.
Yes.
So tell me about your gas products, Guy.
So we have the Gas Plus and we have the Extreme Marine, which is packaged for the boating industry. They're the 1 ounce to 10 gallons. One of the really, really big things, and you can find it on our website. We've got flyers and stuff with it as well, is our Ethanol Guardian technology. That is our technology. It is designed to protect you against the negative effects from the ethanol. The ethanol, whether you like it or don't like it, has some negative effects. Corrosion is one of the big effects. The pH is also not a good situation, right? And so we want to balance out that pH and the acidity, as well as protect you against the corrosion. So during the corrosion testing, we had an A rating. We got the highest rating they give for corrosion protection. And that's all added to the complete formula. So we can help you with that. We can help get you a little bit of your performance back. Now, on average, you'll lose about 8% fuel economy and performance with ethanol, the ethanol over the gasoline. And so I can't get you back everything. I wish I could. I'd be lying to you if I said I could. But I can get you back a little bit of your performance, a little bit of your fuel economy, and just simply keeping it clean all the time and protecting it. And again, these fuel pumps, these fuel systems are extremely high pressure, expensive, right? And there's a lot of plastic, a lot of rubbers. So we don't use the solvents. We use a detergent dispersant to clean, just like you would use in your engine oil, right? So we can clean safely and keep it clean all the time. We don't want to deposit ever in that fuel system, especially your direct injection. It's important to keep that clean. Will we clean it? We'll say it's effective-ish with the direct injection. That type of system is really hard to clean once it's dirty, but it's way easier to keep it clean. And of course, they're almost going away from some of that, but because that has its own issues. We also want to take the water out of the fuel system. Well, gasoline is not the problem like diesel is, with the water freeze up and icing up, especially like it used to be. However, it does have a problem of what we call phase separation. And I don't know if you're familiar with that term.
I'm not.
Yeah. So phase separation is when the ethanol in the fuel separates out from the fuel itself. So when your lawnmower sits over the winter, and this does happen, the ethanol settles out. It takes with it the octane from the fuel, and you go and pull the old cord to start it up. And guess what you get? You get all your octane and all your ethanol all in one shot, and you promptly burn that to the ground. Well, what causes phase separation? Water. So if you have water in your fuel, that's what's causing the ethanol to separate from the fuel itself. So by keeping the water out of the system a little at a time, we're help protecting against the phase separation. I can't guarantee you'll never have that. I just can't, because I don't know if you got water or condensation. I don't know all the environment. There's so many factors that play a role. We're just helping control that phase separation. You know, you can shake your chainsaw before you start. It's a great idea. The lawnmower, whatever you want to do. For me, I use the ethanol in my quad, my snow blowers, all of my equipment. I use the ethanol-based fuel until it sits, and then I'll use, over the winter, I use a non-ethanol-based fuel for the storage. Use the additive. The additive has a stabilizer for storage. It'll keep your fuel sweet for about 1 year. That's all just included. And as we talked in the previous versions, it also keeps the fuel from aging due to recirculation, the oxidation that forms when you superheat that fuel and then send it back to the tank, which is a newer phenomenon. And we're going to keep the fuel sweet from that as well. So it's really important that you cover that area, or those areas.
So I got a couple things. First, I wanted to tell you a story. When I used to work in Northeast North Dakota and I was buying grain, one of the farmers came in and telling me how the ethanol industry needed to be more proactive. They needed to, get more ethanol made, and that would help the price of corn. And I asked that farmer, do you put E85 in your pickup? No, I don't use that crap. So I thought you'd appreciate that one. But the other thing is, too, one of my friends told me a few years ago, I had always thought when you take a gasoline, whether it's your lawnmower or your boat or whatever you're using, before you start it, my impression was you lower that tank level as much as possible so that then you put fresh gas in it the next year, And he corrected me. He said, actually, that creates an environment where condensation can happen. So how does your products help that? And what is the proper technique as you go into storage?
Obviously, like I said, you can go into storage with a non-ethanol fuel, and you want to fill that tank up. If you use the additive, again, you'll stabilize that fuel, because that is really important that that fuel's stable. And you got that antioxidant, and you'll get more stabilizer with the additive than you generally get out of a normal stabilizer product. So it's an excellent one, like I said, up to a year. It does even more. I tell people a year, but we've had a much longer storage with that. But keeping it full helps with condensation, because you don't have the surface area exposed. Think of it this way: when you go out in the morning, at times you'll get into your car and your windows will be dripping with sweat. Right? We had a hot day, we had a cool night, and your windows are running with water. The inside of your fuel tank that doesn't have fuel in it looks just like that. You just can't see it. It's not on a window, but it has that same effect, that same condensation on the inside of the tank. So by keeping the tank full, you eliminate the ability for that condensation to creep up and infiltrate your tank.
So we talked a little bit about the non-ethanol products. So if I'm using premium gasoline, do I still need to use one of these additives?
Yeah, because you're still trying to clean your injectors. You're trying to get the most out of your combustion. You're still trying to lubricate that fuel system. You're also, the product itself will give you a 2-point increase in what they call the octane reduction index. Octane is kind of a funny thing. It's not as easy as you'd think to handle. So there's motor octane, which is tested in an engine, research octane, which is tested in a lab. Your octane reduction index will give you a 2-point increase in your octane in the motor side of things, but it will not change in the research side. So you can't say it's an increase in octane, because technically it's not, even though it'll give you the equivalent. So if you're having a pinging problem, it's a slight ping or whatever. It's how I got into the industry. You add the additive itself and you stop the pinging. Obviously, you've got an increase in octane, whether it tested that way in the lab or not. So we can generally drop you a grade of gas. So if you're running the mid grade, which is 30, 40 cents a gallon more than the lower grade, you can actually drop to the lower grade with the additive. You're going to save about 30 cents a gallon after the additive is paid for. You're going to get that same octane effect from the additive, plus the detergency, the lubricity, the ethanol guardian, the performance, combustion enhancer. That's all included. That's a benefit, and you're saving the 30 cents a gallon. And the same with the premium. If you're running premium, you can drop a grade to the mid grade with the additive. So that'll help. But regardless of the grade you're running, you still need to lubricate. You still need to remove the water. You still need to keep those injectors clean each and every time. And as we talked before on the other, we're on our diesel show, you don't want to use an injector cleaner when you change your oil.
Yeah.
Right? It's ludicrous for those who maybe didn't catch that. The worst time to add that is when you got fresh, clean oil, because you don't take all those carbon deposits and all that garbage in your system and flush it out into a nice, clean oil change, because part of that is going into your oil, which you'll run for the next 3,000 miles or 4,000 miles, however long you do it. And if you're synthetic, it's even worse, because now you just run it that much longer. And so the best thing to do is keep it clean a little at a time, all the time. You know, I had a competitor of mine who was always needling me with a great big company. And he came to me one day with a flyer and he said, "Hey, so we've got a product to compete with you." And I said, "Oh," and he says, "What do you think of this?" And he handed me his flyer. And on the flyer, it had a picture of a toothbrush. And the flyer said, "Your injectors are like your teeth. They need regular cleaning. Use a bottle of our additive every 5,000 miles. And I looked and I said, "Lauren, do you brush your teeth every 5,000 meals?" Right?
Yeah.
Or do you brush them every day? What's better, to brush your teeth every day or brush them once a month really, really, really good? Right? Which is better?
Yeah.
Right?
You got to do it daily.
Exactly right. It is no different. then your fuel system. You need to keep that thing clean a little at a time, all the time. You don't want to flush it out just periodically. That's just nuts. Your motor oil does the same thing. You always have a detergent in your oil. It's constantly cleaning your engine. Now, you could go to a non-detergent oil, let your fuel system or your oil system get full of garbage and gunk and sludge, and then flush it out with a solvent every 3 months, right? Well, does that make sense? No. Then why do you want to do that with your fuel system? What is the difference? Why are you not? Our motto is changing the way you treat your fuel. And of course, it's dual purpose there. But that's what we do. We want to change the way you treat your fuel. You treat it differently now than Grandpa used to treat it. I had a guy say, my grandpa used blankety blank, whatever it was, his whole life 50 years ago. I said, that's perfectly fine as long as you're still running the same rig your grandpa ran. Right.
And fueling with the same fuel.
Yeah. And fueling with things change. They just always change. And so you need to keep up on it. There's no miracle in a bottle. I don't have a miracle in a bottle, but I will guarantee you a clean fuel system will always last longer, run better, start better, and give you better efficiency than a dirty one. That's just common sense. Keep it clean all the time. Keep it lubricated all the time. This stuff is expensive. This equipment's expensive. It's time consuming. Nobody likes to be down. I get people say, man, and my fuel pump is just, I can hear it humming in my tank. It sits there and makes that noise while it's running. They put in the additive. It's like, wow, I don't hear it anymore. Well, why? Because it's getting some lubrication. They say the new fuel systems, you're not supposed to run below about a third of a tank because the fuel itself is what's lubricating and cooling those pumps. So if you run your tank low, that pump is just sitting there running hot, and you can actually prematurely kill the life of the pump by running your tank too low. Well, it's no different than running a solvent in that. If you put in a solvent additive to clean, oh, wow, it cleans. So what? Right? But if you run an additive that actually is adding lubrication and protecting those rubber components, nylon, all that other stuff, you're going to add life to it as opposed to removing life from it. And they're expensive. And the replacement pumps, you talk to anybody, these parts stores, they'll tell you they do not last nearly as long as the factory ones.
Well, and the labor to get in there and take it out, and
drop the
cheap
tank.
Endeavor.
No, it's not something you used to be able to do. Take out a couple bolts, up front and pop in a new one. A couple lines come off, with a couple rubber hose clamps. It is not that way anymore. And so this is really easy to use. It's not messy. It's easy to squirt into your tank itself, put back. Then you got it in the car with you.
That's what I was just going to say. When we talked on the diesel, a lot of those we were talking towards our bulk customers, whether it's a farmer with their 500 gallon to 10,000 or 12,000 gallon tank, or our commercial trucking outfits with multiple 1,000-gallon tanks. Here, when we're talking gasoline and gasoline additives, we don't have nearly as many that have the bulk tanks there. So is the best case to keep one of these bottles handy and squirt a couple ounces in, or an ounce or whatever it is, in each time you fill up? Is that the best solution, Guy?
No, it's absolutely. And then it's easy because of the ounces. You can run it in your lawnmowers, your snowmowers. You put in a little bit, you get a little too much, it's not a problem. A little less, it's not a problem. It's going to balance out. You're obviously wanting to get as close as you can. But we also, like our 64-ounce bottle, treats 640 gallons. There's a lot of 500-gallon farm tanks running around here. And I tell people, and I got bulk fuel people just like you, who take these 64-ounce with them, and they'll offer that to the farmer. Hey, for $40, we can add this to it. It's going to get you some octane. It's going to stabilize that fuel. It's going to protect you against the ethanol and all of that. And pour that in a tank, a $1,500 fill or $2,000 fill. You add $40 to it, you get all that protection. It's a no-brainer. Yep. It's a no-brainer. So, and then you treat the fuel from that bulk tank itself. But all of these are easy to use, easy to carry with you. You're not trying to find a station that has that particular one, because most products, again, only treat 10 gallons of fuel at the same time. And there's just a lot of benefits that come with keeping everything clean each and every time, not only in your fuel system, but adds life to your oil and the oil system itself. This time of year, you do a lot of idling, right? Which creates a lot of gasoline in your oil itself and a lot of carbon buildup and everything else. And so by keeping that fuel system cleaner, even while you're sitting there idling, we're going to keep it clean. We're going to keep it lubricated. And that's going to help with that gasoline from dripping down into that crankcase.
I should say we're hopefully doing a lot of idling. You know, it's important to warm that entire system up. And, you know, I have a friend who told me, he said, I even try and auto start my pickup in the summertime. It may only be for 30 seconds or something. It's definitely not as long. But he goes, it's just important to get everything kind of moving before you just hop in, throw the key in the ignition and start running off. That's a little bit hard on these things, but obviously, especially in those colder weather days, it's more important.
Yeah, no, and that's just part of it. When it gets cold, you know, you get that. Diesel, of course, the diesel market has changed where you're not supposed to idle these things. Right. The EPA is controlling all of this, so you don't have a chance, but then they're not burning. And so, you know, don't burn efficiency because the engine's cold. So, yeah, your gasoline, it's just really important. Again, the ethanol is a really big deal. We've become kind of used to it. It's just the way it is. But it has had more of an effect. It's kind of like being sick. If you've been sick for a long period of time, eventually you begin to think this is just how normal feels. But it's not normal. It just feels normal because you've just been sick for such a long period. And that has happened even in the fuel industry and with the ethanol and stuff. We just expect that kind of mileage,
right?
You know, so we don't get as good a mileage. We just expect that, but you don't have to expect it. You can actually do better than that. And it's very cost efficient. All of these, I've got a chart and I don't have it here, but it's an efficiency chart through one of my dealers who put this together. If you're running a business and you want to, increase, if I can get this right, increase your sales by 10%, if I don't mess this up, you have to have 40% reduction in your maintenance, right? It's so much easier to keep that keep that 40% at 100%. You're gaining. It costs a lot more money to try and gain back from problems than it does to keep the problem from ever occurring, is really what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. Excuse me. So the bottles that we have 3 of them sitting. If you're watching on video, you can see that. If you're listening, you can't see it, but these bottles, they're not big. Do you know the dimensions on these, Guy? They're probably 8 inches tall or so.
Yeah.
And I mean,
2 inches across.
Yeah. They'll fit in a glove compartment or
right in your door pocket.
Console. Yeah. The door pocket. Whatever. Yep. I mean, this is something that's super easy to slide in. And especially when we're talking gasoline and we don't have as much bulk storage of that, if you're just using it in your pickup that you're running to town with, or keep it in the wife's vehicle, that type of stuff, super easy to do, and has the markings on the side. How long will one of these bottles last again?
Well, it does 120 gallons for like the gas treatment. So it depends on how much you're using it. And then what we don't have here is the Extreme Marine, the gasoline additive for the boating industry. Easy to treat your 5-gallon gas tank with a half an ounce or whatever you're doing at the same time. It works with all your watercraft, your boats, jet skis, any of that. So, and that's really important that you're using that each and every time. I think a lot of these guys use the better end, the premium fuels in that particular industry. So they're already spending a bunch of money because they know the importance of good fuel.
Absolutely.
Right? Well, let's take our good fuel and make it great fuel, right? Yeah. Let's change the way we treat our fuel system. Don't expect a miracle, but it does make a difference to.
So what's the difference between the Extreme Marine and your other gas treatment?
Yeah, it's just simply packaged and labeled for the boating industry specifically, just to make it easier for that. So
if you don't have Extreme Marine on hand and you're at your house, but you have a bottle of the other gas treatment, feel free to just swap that in.
Yeah, the price is exactly the same on them. It's just specific for the boating industry, but they're both using literally the same gasoline, and they both are having the same issues. So we want to take care of all of that, whether it's water or lubricity. Your octane is always a benefit, especially in the boating.
Yeah.
That industry itself, which has tendency to work things a little harder, and the stability, keeping that fuel stable each and every time is a big deal. So just so many benefits. Like I said, you read the package, it's like, wow, there's a lot of things here. It's not that that everybody can do that. This industry, it's not like I have some magic formula that nobody can figure out, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody has, now there's some of that, like our ethanol guardian is ours. That's chemistry is ours. But everybody has the option to buy good chemistry. All the chemical manufacturers, we all deal with the same handful of raw chemical manufacturers. We're not buying chemicals made in China from children. Now there are some that are made in China. We're not one of them. But these are not like buying a purse, right? Or a shirt that was made, with slave labor. This is an industry. Everybody has the ability to do the same thing. It's, do they want to spend the money on it? And you got two ways to go. You can spend your money on heavy marketing, advertising, celebrity endorsements, and a little less on the inside, or you can spend your money on the inside of the product and let the product speak for itself. And that's our approach to it. Let the product speak for itself. Educate everybody, help them make good decisions, but let the product speak for itself. It's been in 40 years. I said before, I still got my very first customer when I started at 23 years of age. They are still my customer to this day.
Well, and if you think it's hard getting a customer, it's harder keeping them. So, I mean, that is a true testament to the service and the quality of the product. And it's commendable, and we wouldn't sell it if we weren't believers in it here at Horizon Resources. We definitely are. Guy, is there any other things that you wanted to touch on about the gas products and the treatments for our gas engines before we wrap up today's episode?
Nope, just educate yourself. I think you mentioned the website. We've got lots of information,
yes.
Lots of test data, which you generally don't see on the competitor sites. There's always lots of claims, but there's not always a lot of data, if any data. And you can see that we have a lot of test data and stuff on there. We've got a lot more that we have not even posted just because it's mind numbing on that. We just want a product that works effectively and cost effectively. There's nothing out there. So you're averaging about 90 cents to treat 10 gallons of fuel. You just buy a bottle of alcohol, costs you $3.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And it doesn't do anything. It's just alcohol. So this is considerably less money to use because of the way it's packaged. One bottle, not 12 bottles, one label, one lid. And so good technology, packaged simply, easy to use, even for the ladies out there. It's not messy. It's not stinky. It's not going to burn the paint off the side of your car if you spill it on the paint itself. So it's not a product like that. You don't have to be hazmat geared up to use the product itself. It's inexpensive. Again, like we said, just simple technology packaged simply. And get on the website, check it out for yourself, sign up for the newsletter, get a little education at a time. With the different changing seasons, we always try to address that at the same time. And you can call us. Believe it or not, we'll actually answer the phone occasionally if we're not already busy on the phone. You got questions, we get a lot of calls. Yeah. And we just love to talk to whoever needs help. And got a question, call us up.
And that rings to the office in Montana.
In Montana, like I said, born and raised Montana.
Yeah.
And that's...
So you're not getting a call center somewhere else. You're getting to talk to the people, boots on the ground here in the USA. Phenomenally helpful. Guy, you've been talking about, whether it's on this episode or other episodes, about how you've talked with customers for hours and hours. And it doesn't matter. Your goal is to make sure that customer is as well educated as anything. And again, I can't give your website enough credit. Fuelguys.com. The resources tab is second to none. I think you guys do a phenomenal job there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Levi. And it's just been really great. It's been a lot of years that we've dealt with you guys. So we've had an association for a long time, going way back even before as we talked.
Well, we look forward to many more years doing business together. And if you're interested in the products here, you can get a hold of either our energy department or the retail department on the gas side. We've got it stocked on the shelves in the stores. But yeah, let us know if you need anything, if you have any questions. But Guy, thank you so much. This is 3 episodes now. You're going to be setting records here. But thank you, and look forward to having you on again sometime in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Levi. Thanks so much to you and Horizon.
Thank you for tuning in to On the Horizon. If our conversation today sparked your interest, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Stay connected by following @Horizon Resources Co-op on Facebook and Instagram, and explore the world of agriculture with us. We're excited to continue bringing you real conversations with Horizon Resources industry partners, member owners, and employees, discovering more about your local neighbors and community friends. Until next time, keep looking towards the horizon.
Horizon Resources, solutions for your success.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be used or considered as an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell commodities. Horizon Resources does not make any representation, warranty, or guarantee as to the completeness, accuracy, timeliness, or suitability of any information contained within any part of this podcast. Horizon Resources does not accept any liability for any loss or damage, including without limitation loss of profit, which may arise directly or indirectly from use or reliance on such information. Whilst the information provided has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, Horizon Resources does not attest to its accuracy or completeness. Horizon Resources reserves the right to change any source without restriction or notice. The information herein is indicative only and is subject to change.